Hello and welcome to another day on Cornwall Pocket Farm. My name is Jenny and today this is another video in the making of the outfits for my Art Deco weekend in Napier. So this video is about I think we called it the Poiret ensemble, didn't we? So I had the Poiret coat, which I made based on a design in the Met Museum by Poiret, and he designed that in 1919. I made it originally for my friend's house's birthday party, and I'll put a little card up here, so if you haven't seen that video where I make the coat portion of this, you can go over there and check that out. This video is about the 1 hour dress that I made to go with that coat. I made it out of an art silk brackets polyester saree that I had, and it's got a fabulous design on it, and I made the coat out of most of that, and there was a little bit left over, and I thought, oh well, that'd be perfect just to make a little 1 hour dress. I looked on YouTube, of course, for a 1 hour dress, and there's loads of people that have made 1 hour dresses, and I watched the Closet Historian version, and she's very good at giving all that information about how she makes things. I follow her for all of my making and pattern drafting and dart manipulation and all that sort of stuff. I look at the Closet Historian for that. So I followed her sort of basic idea, but I made heaps of changes and did it my way as always. I made this outfit for a jazz evening that we were going to. I thought with the sort of quite statement print, if you like, on this art silk, I thought it would be really lovely and sort of quite artsy for this jazz event. I also wanted to wear this ensemble to the Fashion Flaunt. So Napier has this sort of fashion show, Fashion Flaunt, that they do in their festivals, and I thought this ensemble, because I'd made it myself and I thought it was quite sort of striking, I really quite liked it, I thought I would enter the Fashion Flaunt. Now I have put a video of my sort of prancing around on the stage and talking to the gentleman with the microphone and all of that. I've put that over on my Ko-fi page. There is a link to that in the description box below on this video, and also on my channel there's a link as well. So head over there and have a look at the final result. It is my husband doing the video with a phone, so it's a little bit wobbly, but you can sort of get the idea. It's a very short video, so head over there and have a look. There is also the facility over on Ko-fi for you to support my channel if you would like to help me carry on to make content like this. And oh, thank you to Florence, that's very much appreciated. The next video in this series, the last video in this series, actually will be the Velvet Monstrosity. It turned out, I think, a little less monstrous than it started off. If you remember, I'll put a card here as well to the haul where I got that from the charity shop, and it's quite a strange creature, but anyway, I did manage to wrangle it into something that was, yeah, pretty decent, I think. So if you'd like to follow along, please comment, subscribe, thumbs up, click the bell, do all those wonderful things, and you'll then be alerted and you'll be able to see this video when I put it out, which will be next Friday, I think. And also, I have to say, the YouTube algorithm at the moment is being a bit naughty because it's not actually sort of promoting small content creators like myself. I've actually seen a lot of YouTube creators, the small creators, mentioning this as well, that it isn't sort of serving up our content. I think it's favouring this awful AI generated stuff that's all sort of advertising and what have you. So it would be really very much appreciated if you could like, comment and do all that, and hopefully we can train this algorithm that people like you and me actually quite like to see content from small creators that have put a lot of effort in to create these little videos, and personally I find them really interesting. Actually, one of the videos I'm thinking of doing soon is actually a video where I share the creators that I watch and I really enjoy, and then hopefully you can share the ones that you like to watch in the comments. Anyway, let's get on with the video today of the making of the 1 hour dress. And as normal, things didn't go quite according to plan, and the design changed and evolved, and there were hiccups along the way, as always. But I was really pleased with the final result, and hopefully, as you will see at the end, it did turn out quite nice, really. Light, 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 light. The sun is shining right into my sewing room, which is not ideal for filming. However, I need to crack on, so I can't be waiting for the perfect light conditions to film each piece. So unfortunately, there may be some lighting issues, as you can see here. Yes. Anyway, so I have got so many different things in play, but I have decided that what I need to do is start on the pattern for the 1 hour dress. I've taken all my measurements with the aid of my daughter, which is wonderful. I have recorded them all in my special book. This is my sewing ideas and sewing measurements and planning sort of book. So I have taken all the measurements and drawn them on a plan, but I'm glad I didn't actually start making the pattern, because I have decided to make my eye shape, because basically the 1 hour dress is an eye. There's the arm piece at the top for arms to go through, then it comes down, and then it has this bit that comes out which you sort of gather or pleat in. I have decided that my eye is not going to be a normal straight eye, it is going to be a flared eye, because you take the measurement around here for the top piece, and of course then that is supposed to just go straight down to your boyish hips, and then the gathers and pleat just allow a little tiny bit extra to go over your hips. Well, that isn't going to work for me, so I've decided that what I'm going to do is sort of flare it out a bit until I get the measurement around my hips which feels comfortable. But I think it will fit and look better on me than trying to do a straight up and down thing and then having it all sort of tight and stuck on my hips, which won't be a good look. At the side on a 1 hour dress, essentially there's a bit where you either gather it or pleat it. And I think a pleat is going to be best, because that's the sort of smoothest, and gathers are just going to make my hips look even bigger. So I think we're going to go with a pleat there. Not sure yet, but I think that's what I'm going to do. I will of course mock it up when I get to that point. But the first thing is to get the paper out and draw up the design. I've got my coffee, and I'm trying to stay focused on one project at a time, because my sewing room is absolutely covered in different projects at various stages. And I shan't lie, it's making me a little anxious, so because I prefer something a bit more ordered. Okay, ready to start. I think what I'm going to do is, because the pattern is symmetrical essentially, I mean you've got like, it just does this, so I mean it's symmetrical. So I could just make a half pattern like you normally do on a dress pattern, and then cut it out with it folded in this way, in the four, because that should give me 2 identical pieces, and this fabric is so slippy I don't want to be pinning and cutting any more than I need to. I'm actually just going to test my theory. If I fold it in half like that, piece of paper, then fold it in half again like so, this is my folded edge. Let's get my paper scissors out, and then I go, right, let's have a sleeve here, and we're going to have a body there, and we're going to have another sleeve there like that. When I open it up, I do have 2 pieces, and I actually have 2 pieces. I actually have it still joined at this place here. I'm just going to do it like that. It's going to be easier. And then when I fold it out and I've got it in this form, I can then just, actually no, I can even just, I can cut the flutter sleeves like this, can't I? So even in its form like this, I can take the top sleeve and basically do the curve on the top for the flutter sleeve, come down, and then this is the bit that'll pleat in. When I open that up, I now have the 2 sides. This bit's joined anyway, but I was going to join that bit anyway. And then I just need to do these side seams and a bit at the neck, and I have my flutter sleeves. That's how I'm going to do it. I think that's going to be way easier, just to make a pattern of the quarter. Do it in 4 and then cut it like that. Tested it in paper chain doll method, but I think that is going to work, and I wanted to test it because, you know, when you make paper chains and you cut all the bits that, well, you probably don't, unless you're my age, when we used to do this sort of thing. Now you probably just go down to the nearest tack shop and buy loads of whatever, but in my day we used to make these things where you would cut out a pattern like a snowflake or a little man holding hands, and then you would unravel it, and hopefully you'd have a big chain of little people holding hands or snowflakes, but occasionally you'd open it up and you'd just have a lot of bits of paper because you did something wrong. So I'm glad I've tested it. So I have drawn my pattern roughly. This here is the sort of flutter sleeve then it comes into the waist and then comes out to that fullness for the hips. And I haven't bothered taking the pattern all the way down because I am going to use, or I'm hoping to use the full length of the fabric, because obviously it has that, can't see it at this end, but it has that nice, oh, I've just realised I've got it backwards because that pattern needs to be at the bottom. Oh, sometimes it's really helpful to video something. Gives you a minute to pause and go, oh, that's wrong. Okay, so that should be at the bottom. This should be at the top. Right, that's more the way it should be. So I haven't carried on the pattern because the bottom will just end where the pattern ends. And I think that should be sort of ankle length, but I think that should work. And then I just need to cut that piece out. This is the raw ends on this side, one fold and two raw ends, and over there is the full fold. Okay, let's pin and cut. I've cut it all out, but I'm probably not going to do any more on this tonight. Another day, I think. But I've made some progress, which is good, yes. Headband for the P, which is the Poiret. So that I can actually cross off as being completed. Not that I've made it, but I have that red fascinator from the charity shop, which is going to go with this outfit, and I think it'll be perfect. So the colour, the red is not quite the same red, but it's close enough. And one's up here on my head, and the other one is down by my ankles, so it should be fine. Well, that was the quickest project I've completed on this job so far, so that's great. So this tie I am now going to use on the neck. I actually want to put it sort of round on the neck, and then I'm going to do a bit of a bow sort of thing here, and then use some of this extra blouse fabric, the blouse on the saree, which sort of comes at the end of the saree. You usually cut it off and make a blouse out of it. So this extra blouse, I'm then going to do some longer ties to sort of drape down the front. That's the plan anyway at this point. And then we have the piece that I cut out the other day, and we have this sort of strange shape now, which is the dress. So I need to sort of pin it together and do some seams to make it into a bit of a dress. But let's do a little bit of a recap as to what I've actually done on this pattern. Okay, so just having a look at the pattern, the actual 1 hour dress is just like a big eye. These being the sleeve pieces. And then it sort of comes out for the hip extensions. That is your standard 1 hour dress pattern. This is and there's two of these. So this is a flat front. So it's ×2, that's the front, and then there'll be another piece exactly the same for the back. And the measurements that I took was, this is the shoulder seam here, and through to where you want the bottom of the sleeve. This is a sort of a kimono type sleeve, so just a grown on kimono type sleeve. And of course this is all very sort of loose and sort of flowing. So I decided that this length on me I wanted to be 23 centimeters, and then the length from here down to my hip there, I wanted that to be 46 centimeters. The other measurement is your across bust measurement, which comes across here with some ease. So my measurement across here is 89 centimeters, but of course this is only half of the pattern, it's just the front, so I need to half that. So the distance across the front would be 44.5 centimeters is my distance across here. But you also want to add some ease, and I decided to add 2 centimeters ease on either side. So that meant that this was not going to be that, which is my bust measurement. The distance across was going to be 48.5, because I'd added on 2 centimeters either side, adding a 4 total, which of course makes 48.5 centimeters. Now what I actually did was I did this in quarters because I made a half pattern. So I actually had the fold going through here. So I had it folded in 4, if you like, which meant that this half of this was what I was measuring. So obviously half of that is going to be, what, 24 and a bit. So I just rounded that up, this piece here, to 25 centimeters. Now, the problem with this is that my bust measurement at the top, even with this ease, is much smaller than my hips. And I know I have this extra here to sort of increase, to allow for more hippage. But I always find that if you have one part of your anatomy which is larger than another part, the thing that would most draw attention to the fact that it's larger is that if it's tight. So I didn't want any tightness across this dimension here. So what I did was I actually flared this out a little bit, only a little bit. I think there's probably an extra 2 centimeters here and another 2 centimeters here. The other thing that I did, I actually cut it to make a curve. I thought I would like to have a bit of a flutter sleeve here. Hopefully in the end I'll have my sort of shoulder here, and then it will sort of flutter out like that and sort of look more attractive. That's my shoulder. It's a very pointy shoulder, isn't it? So basically it will come down and then do a nice sort of flutter in to here. The idea of having this extra movement and extra detail here is that the more that I can get going on the top half, the more it's going to detract from anything that's going on in this piece of my anatomy. The other thing that I'm planning to do is to actually put this V-neck on here. So I'm going to do a V-neck. Again, partly this is because I want the attention up here and I want to create a vertical line. I'm not very tall. This is going to grab a little at my hips, so what I'm trying to do is create a vertical line. And the ties that I'm adding on, I want the ties to come all the way down. I want them to be long ties so that all the attention will be sort of in the middle, and this will be movement. This will be dark. I'm going to make it out of the blouse fabric, so this is going to be dark and this is going to be on a whiter background. So hopefully the attention will all be on the vertical line and the V-neck will be more sort of flattering. The other thing I'm going to do is this, at the top of this fabric, hopefully I can show you here on the camera while you're pointing down. The top of this fabric has this sort of navy, or is it black, line, both top and bottom. And I am using the full length of this fabric, so there will be a dark line coming across here and also a dark line coming along the base. So this is going to sort of be quite nice vertical lines that are happening here away from my hip area. Because this has got a horizontal line, which again will emphasize my shoulders and the width up here, what I'm planning to do is actually not put a seam at the top, but maybe leave a little gap here. If you were looking down on my shoulders, essentially, there would be 2 sides of the fabric, like that. That's my head in the middle. There'd be 2 sides of the fabric, which has got the navy line on it, like that. What I'm planning to do is just join it with some little pieces of fabric, some little sort of straps of fabric, and these I can make out of the blouse fabric again, so it'll be contrast. So there'll be a little flash of flesh, a little gap through here. That'll mean that the lines are quite clear and I don't lose any of that in a seam, and it'll just add a detail up here. Again, more detail on my shoulder is all for the good. And then of course the line at the bottom, and of course all the pattern is down here, and there's a few spots that come up here as well, but not that many. So hopefully the focus will be at the bottom and also at the top. That's my plan, to try and de-emphasize my hips and emphasize my shoulders, and then the flowing of the fabric at the bottom. So I'm just starting off doing I've got one side seam on the skirt part. Because it's one large piece, I just need to wrap it around and do one side seam, which of course will be hidden in the pleat. The other side wasn't cut, so that's brilliant. I only have to do this one. And the other thing I'm going to do is actually hem these curved sort of flutter sleeves at the top. It's going to be a bit of a trick, but I'm just going to turn it over and stitch around and then turn over it again and stitch again like you would do on a chiffon, because I did that on the chiffon and it worked really nicely. And I'm going to do that before I do the side seam, because I think that will create a nicer finish than the other way around, which could get tricksy. So that's going to be a pain, I can guarantee it. The side seam, hopefully, fingers crossed, shouldn't be too bad. So I have 4 different flutter sleeve pieces to do, so that's 4 versions of hell. But let's try and see how far we get. I'm going to try and batch sew this because it is supposed to be a 1-hour dress, a quick dress, so I'm trying to make it as quick as possible. Well, I did the flutter sleeves. It actually wasn't as bad as I imagined, so it's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but I can give this a little bit of a press, and I think that, and they'll be moving. So now I'm going to do just the side seams down here. Again, I'm going to do French seams. That may be a mistake because I'm not quite sure how this bit then fits into it, but we will see. There's no hemming, of course, on this dress because I'm just using the selve with that pattern on. I mean, you've got the selve sort of little dots that come through it, but it's all pattern, isn't it? And there's no hemming on the top piece either. So yeah, hopefully it is actually turning, fingers crossed, I shouldn't say this, it is turning out to be quite a quick make. Touch some wood quickly because yeah, it could all go horribly wrong. Oh, another thing that I started off and I thought, oh, this is not working quite as well. I realised I had the stretch needle, the ballpoint stretch needle in that I was using for the fur fabric, which was quite a heavy needle and it was a ballpoint. That's why it wasn't working. So I changed it out to a really fine pointed sort of silk level needle. I think it's a number 860, something like that. So it's quite fine, and that's made it a lot easier. I just put a couple of pins in here just to mock up the top. It will connect a different way, but anyway, just so I can put it on. The flutter sleeves, again, will be connected a little bit further down as well. But yeah, and obviously I need to do these side bits yet. But it fits here and it fits here. And yeah, hopefully you can see. It's a dress, sort of. Quite pleased with that. It's longer than I thought, but it's nice. It's sort of ankle length. Unless I do something, I'm not sure. I'm going to play for a little, sorry you can't see me, so I'm not really sure. I'm going to play for a little bit and see what I can come up with. I think I'm going to need something across here because I've got to stitch these pleats in through the fabric, so there's going to be a sort of ugly seam. So I'm thinking maybe if I use some of this contrast fabric and do a little eyebrow, and maybe if I could bring that up the back like that and sort of almost bring it in a little bit sort of over my bottom to sort of give a little shape, I don't know. Anyway, we're going to get these pleats in, and then, oh, and I need to do this top because at the moment I just keep pinning it to my top because the idea is that there will be like little contrast straps here. Whether I've got enough contrast fabric, I don't know, but the idea is to have little contrast straps here so that this is actually sort of this little bit of flesh here. That's the idea. Let's see if we can make that work first, and then we'll maybe come back to these eyebrow things and make it work. It will work, it's just a matter of time. It's more than an hour. It's not a 1-hour dress, I can tell you that. Okay, I have now done those little sort of seams across here, and I was right. I mean, I have got a sort of stitch line which is a bit ugly. So technically I could just sort of stitch along the top now, and I have a 1-hour dress. But I'd like to do a bit more. I'd like to make it a bit better, I think. So yeah, I'm going to play around with a few things. I definitely want to do these little straps on the top. V-neck maybe. Some sort of eyebrow thing. I'm going to have to do a lot of figuring out, a lot of making. I'll come back to you when I've got somewhere with that. So last night I did a bit more. I basically made these little sort of pieces which I was thinking are going to go on the shoulders like that and join the back and the front so that there's a gap all the way down. I think I could potentially get 3 straps out of this width. I'm going to need 2 to come down the front because I want them really long, but that still leaves me with 1. Will that be enough? Or I could use 2 on the back and then just sort of have ties down here that are a little bit shorter. Whatever, I think the next step is to actually make these straps. I can then put it on Audrey and try out different positionings to sort of deal with this stitchy bit here and the connecty bits here and the collar. All technical terms, but that's my plan at the moment. Well, it's another day. There's lots of little bits of filming and sewing at the moment because whenever I can, I'm in here to do a little tiny bit. So, where did we get to last time? For you, it's only a couple of minutes. For me, it's overnight. Oh, I know. I made these ties. Okay, so you can probably see on Audrey, I have made the 3 ties now out of the remaining blouse fabric on the saree. So I have 3 ties and I have 4 little sort of square pieces. So anything I do with this dress now has to be with these components essentially. So I think the next thing to do is get it on Audrey. It is a filthy day out there, so I really don't want to take my clothes off. It is howling a gale, raining, and it's quite dark. I mean, I've got the lights on and everything, but it actually is morning, so it should be really quite bright in my sewing room, but it isn't. It's grey and yucky. We've got a heavy rain warning in place, and it's blowing a gale. So nice to be in my sewing room. Friday now, countdown. I have one more weekend, which I'm really hoping to crack on with the velvet dress if I can. And then I've probably got a couple more evenings, maybe, we'll see. So, this dress needs to get done and dusted today. She says, touch some wood, touch everything, because we're on a mission here. Hopefully you can see what I've sort of put together. Do you remember that bit where I said about over-designing the one-hour dress? It's my tendency. I think that's what I'm doing now, so I want to do it really quickly, but I think this, I wanted something a bit interesting. The seam line for that pleat part here, I've covered it with another one of the straps, and there's a strap each on either side. And then I've sort of tied it in a bow, but I'm thinking what I'll do is actually attach the bow a little higher up, maybe put a bit of a pleat in here to sort of, I don't know, break up some of that boxiness. So, and also I wanted to bring it higher up so that it would, the balance is right. If I let the bow come right down, it's basically just going to sit right on my bum. And I felt that I wanted the emphasis higher than my backside. So I'm bringing that up, and then I thought maybe I could put a bit of a pleat in there to sort of give it a bit more shape at the back. And then these tails obviously dangle down the same way as it does on the front. And then of course at the back here I will stitch this neck all the way on. So that is sort of my mock-up. Okay, well there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is that I decided all of the sort of the neck scarf piece that was on there was sort of unnecessary and overcomplicated the thing, and so I just took that off completely. So I have basically these couple of straps left over now. The side pieces going up into the bow at the back, I really like that. The little pieces on the side and showing sort of a bit of skin all the way through here, that looks really nice. And sort of the tie neck didn't really work. It made it look a little bit like sort of religious robes, if you like, and wasn't the look I was going for. So just having that very simple across the top really worked much better. So now I have these two straps over, but that does make it a much simpler make. Now for the bad news. The bad news is that this fabric is sticking to my legs where I haven't got a slip on. The slip that I have is just a modern slip, so you know they only come halfway down your thigh, which is never really long enough for me anyway, and I do have plans to make a sort of a knee length slip in a sort of vintage design. but this is almost floor length. And where beyond my slip it's just sticking to my legs. Now that isn't the same with the coat. That never had a static problem. But maybe because this is finer and it's next to my legs that are sort of moving and walking, I don't know, but there's definitely a static problem. So I've made the make of the dress easier, but I now have to make a petticoat to go under it. Yes, so I'm going to have to add something to the board, which I was really hoping not to do. Now I do have an old linen sheet in my scraps box, so I do have the fabric to do it. It's just how quickly can I make a completely shapeless 1920s, almost to the ground level slip. I think we should have a little go at this board because a few things have changed and I just need to keep updated. So the 1 hour dress make is sort of made but needs hand sewing. So I think I need a sort of some sort of indication of done but hand sewing. So I think I'm going to cross it through because I think that's like I've done that. But I think it's going to need a star for hand sewing. So I think these two, corduroy trousers to finish and the braces make, I think these have just even fallen off the good, better, best scale that I had. I think they'll be on the delusional level. So these two were under delusional and I'm not really going to even get there. What I do need to do now is get on with this velvet dress, and of course we've added something to the board because I need to now make a petticoat, a 20s petticoat for the 1 hour dress. So do I even have room? Maybe I'll put it at the top. This is it's the 1 hour dress. I'm going to have to get rid of the squiggles. Okay, it's a 1 hour petticoat. I seem to be adding things rather than taking them away. But anyway, I think we're making progress. Okay, pattern altered. I've just basically made it very, very simple. An arm side here and then straight across the front. That will be exactly the same on the back. Front and back will be identical. Straps I'm probably just going to make out of some bias binding and attach it to the inside of the other straps. You're not going to see it. So, let's get it on the sheet. Zoom, zoom. Two pieces, roughly the same. I'm going to zip round on my overlocker now and then, yeah, and then madly do a bit on my sewing machine to get this done. Why is it whenever you go to your overlocker because you want to do a quick thing, it's always threaded with the wrong colour? I just wanted to be threaded with white and it wasn't, it's threaded with black. But if I thread it with white, I can guarantee that the next thing I want to do needs black. My advice to anybody looking to make a 1 hour dress, make it out of a nice stable woven fabric like an old linen sheet, because oh my god, this was so quick and so easy. I have the box pleats in, no worries. I've got the top. I just need to attach some straps. The back, the front. It was a dream. I have done this, cut it out, made the pattern, you know, made the alterations to the pattern, cut it out, zoomed up on that, done the whole thing, even ironed the sheet and talked to you in less than an hour. So yes, a 1 hour dress, a 1 hour petticoat can be done out of an old bed sheet. Right, I am just now going to, of course I've got it over my clothes, so it's a little lumpy bumpy, but it is the job, I think. So I just need to now, I'm just going to use bias binding. I may not even finish the edge. Well, I mean, it's overlocked. I may not even hem the edges. I mean, it's inside, isn't it? I mean, nobody is going to see it. I don't think I can leave it though. No, I'm going to have to hem the edges. I'll just turn them over. I'm just going to turn them over and just, but by 5 mil and just run round. That'll be it. Job done. Yay! So literally all I have done, I've just pinned it, but I've yet to attach it, is I have just attached a little bit of bias binding tape to hang the inner dress onto the straps on my shoulders. When I was wearing 1920s clothes for the ball last Christmas, I just felt that I was wearing my gym jams, really, my pyjamas, because it was so relaxed. Like, obviously you don't wear a bra because it's sort of flat chested and there's nothing constricting anywhere, so it was just really, really comfortable. And now I've got an old bed sheet on the inside. I'm literally in bed, which, I mean, how fabulous is that, going out on the town in your gym jams and your nice comfy sheets. So yeah, that'll be a very nice thing to wear for the evening, I think.